19. In light of all the above, we can understand that the Kavanah, inner intention, in Kriyat Shema, the Shema recitation, is the exact reverse of the Kavanah in the Shmoneh Esreh, the 18 blessings. In Shema, the main Kavanah is Mezirut Nefesh, self-sacrifice. In the declaration 1, Ehad, meaning the simple oneness, Ehad HaPashat, at the ultimate level, a oneness that is separated and exalted beyond even being a source for the source of the 10 Sefirot of Atzilut, emanation. That is, it is the light of the Infinite One, blessed be He, Ein-Sof, Barukh, as it is within the Moha Eloeh, the supernal mind, prior to any self-contraction, so much so that it cannot even be called by the name Sovev Dekol Almin, the surrounding all worlds. And though it is utterly beyond grasp, dveikut, cleaving, still applies there and is called Mezirut Nefesh, because true Mezirut Nefesh reaches specifically into that supernal mind above intellect and comprehension. The core of Mezirut Nefesh is an essential selfhood that is not limited by reason at all. Proof: we do not find Mezirut Nefesh as a commanded act anywhere except in Shema Yisrael. The Mezirut Nefesh comes naturally out of one. Therefore the Torah does not explicitly command Mezirut Nefesh, as a general duty. The compulsion is from the soul's very nature. Only in "you shall love, Havayah your God," do we find an explicit command. This speaks to the body, even if he takes your life, i.e., in concrete actuality. This is why Rabbi Akiva said he longed for the opportunity to fulfill with all your life in actual Mezirut Nefesh, even though in his soul he indeed possessed potential Mezirut Nefesh. Thus, the main Kavanah in Shema is to the supernal mind specifically, for their essential self-sacrifice is possible, beyond the bounds of thought and intellect, namely, the essence of Ein-Sof, utterly beyond the mode of enclothement in the Kavihut, the post-contraction line and thread. This is, with all your miodeka, your very, beyond any vessel's measure. Still, this comes only after Mezirut Nefesh exists in potential within the soul, and then in actuality, even if he takes your life. At that point one enters the state of miodi, boundlessness in the soul itself, called your very, and above, the supernal miodi, as is known. And this suffices. But the Kavanah in prayer, Shmoneh Esreh, is the reverse. Although one calls upon Havayah himself, as above, the main intent is specifically to draw from the essence of Ein-Sof into the Sefirot, so that he be called wise, understanding, kind, etc., until the divine drawing comes from the Sefirot of Atzilut down through Beria, Yetzirah, Ossia, Biyah, to be the healer of the sick in actuality, to feed and sustain all creatures in actuality, and so on. Nevertheless, these two modes unite and become truly one. For precisely through the inclusion and unification of the Sefirot within the essence of Ein-Sof, and through the suprarational Mezirut Nefesh of Shema, there is power and strength for the drawing of the essence of Ein-Sof from above to below in the 18 blessings of Shmoneh Esreh, in a particularized way, a new light, an added light, in each Sephirah in its particular detail, raising it to a higher grade than its prior light. This is what is called Barakah, blessing, in the name Havayah, as we say, Bara Ata Havayah. Through this added blessing, divine effluence descends step after step through the three worlds of Biyah down to this lowest world, to feed the poor, to heal the sick, and so forth. Now, since the root and source of all added light in Atzilut, manifesting as the 18 blessings, comes from drawing the light of essence of Ein-Sof, and since this is specifically caused by the unification of Shema, it follows that in Shema itself there must be the root of this drawing of a new, added light. This is the second aspect of Shema's unification. According to the revealed tradition, crown him, Temlikuhu, in the heavens and on the earth and in the four directions, above and below. By this, a new light is drawn from the supernal mind, Moha Eloeh, itself. This comes after the elevation, inclusion, and bittul, dissolving, of the Sefirot in the essence, that is the unification according to the Kabbalah. The two depend upon each other, as explained. Therefore, even someone engaged in Torah interrupts for Shema and is exempt from prayer, when 200 include 100. And regarding standing versus sitting, the relationship flips. In Shema the new light is drawn as inwardness, in prayer, as outwardness. To understand this drawing of a new, added light into the Sefirot of Atzilut by the supernal unification, Yihud Eloeh, of Shema, which then becomes the source of revealed, added light in the 18 blessings of Shmoneh Esreh, we must preface with the sage's commentary on that day Havayah will be one and his name one, Zechariah 14 verse 9. Is he not one now? They ask. Similarly, what is the point of Shema's commanded unification, Kavanah to unite Hokhmah and Binah in the words Havayah our God? For the union of Abba and Ima, Ava Vima, Hokhmah and Binah, is constant, a perpetual zivug, union, already established by the light of the emanator, two companions who never part, for the sake of sustaining the worlds. Likewise, the union of Zia Anpin and Nukva, Zuan, expressed in Havayah is one, said every day, and the lower unification, Yihud Tatre, in. Blessed be the name of the glory of his kingship forever. Barashem Keved Malkhuto Lolamvit, called his name one. All these are the main source of sustenance to the worlds and never cease, not even for a moment. If so, even without the unification enacted by Israel in Shema, the supernal union would not be interrupted. We must say, when the Zohar says Abba and Ima are in constant union, that is only to renew the old, like who renews each day, continuously, the work of creation, meaning Hokhmah and Binah of Atzilut provide daily vitality to the worlds in a pre-measured way, set long ago by the measuring line, Kav HaMidah, at the head of the chain of descent, as taught in Etz Hayyim. But for there to be a truly new light revealed from the supernal mind, not commensurate with the first measure, that is what is called an added new light. This comes only through the mitzvah of unification in Shema, which is far higher than the constant union. This unification is in the two words Havayah our God, Havayah Elokinu. It adds a new light from the supernal mind, not for the sake of routine world-sustaining flow, but as an inner, essential union of Abba and Ima themselves. And this suffices. The unification begins with elevation and bittul. The 10 Sefirot unite and are included in the essence, as stated above about he and his life forces are one, and thereby a spirit is drawn, a new light from the essence itself, far beyond even the source of the 10 Sefirot as revealed in the Kav Vihut. Because of this, the Sefirot are nullified from their separate existence, called 10 Sefirot without Emma, what, and then they include even opposites. This happens by the aspect of the name Emma on the inside, which unites and ties them together, so that they join and include one another. As known, when a supremely hidden, exalted light is revealed, oneness and peace break out, even between opposites. He makes peace between Michael, angel of fire, and Gabriel, angel of water, and they do not extinguish one another. Thus Hesed and Gevurah, and Hokhmah and Binah, Abba and Ima, and Zuan all include, because of the intense bittul caused by the new light from the essence. So the unification of the Sefirot, though coming by bittul, is because a revelation from essence shines downward. But the first unification, inclusion and bittul within the essence itself, yours, Havayah, is the greatness, is far higher, an ascent, where they are entirely not a separate reality, 10 Sefirot without Emma. From this essential unification comes the drawing of a new light from essence, causing a second unification that, by contrast, is a descent and drawing. They unite and include within themselves. Of this second unification it says, you are the one who unites them. But of the unification in essence it says, you are one, not in the count of the 10 Sefirot, not of any of these measures at all. Still, the two depend upon each other. It is from the ascent and unification in essence that the second, descending unification comes, added new light in the Sefirot. Therefore, in Shema itself there is both ascent and drawing. And the drawing of added light from essence into the Sefirot, in Havayah our God, is the source of the added light in the 18 blessings, so there can be a novel flow to the worlds in children, life, and livelihood, Bainim, hayyei, Mezoni to heal a dangerously ill person, to feed a pauper whose flow had been cut off by the first measure, and so forth in the spiritual worlds, like the higher Garden of Eden. Though Abba Ima's union is constant for worlds without end, and likewise the union of Zuan, that constant union renews only according to the original measure, always on the same level. But when the world needs a new flow beyond its allotted measure, it comes only through the Shema unification, elevation and drawing, bringing a truly new light into the inwardness of Abba and Ima. From there it extends into the 18 blessings. And this suffices. Accordingly, the sages said, crown him, likewise, When I crowned him above and below, there was no more need, a phrase of descent and drawing below. Even according to Kabbalah, where the main unification is the ascent and bittul of the Sefirot in essence, this crown him unification is also essential, because the whole purpose of unifying in essence by bittul and ascent is precisely for the drawing of the added new light. This is why we elongate the word ehad, one, in Shema, specifically on its large dalet. That elongation is the descent of the flow from Abba Vayma to Zuen, namely, the unification of the 9 Sefirot of Zia Anpin in Malkhut, all hinted in the letters of Ehad, Aleph, 1, Het, the 7 heavens and earth, and Dalet, the 4 directions. This is its revealed meaning. Inwardly it is the same subject. The Talmudic language hides the matter by speaking in 6 physical extremities, but the intent is the spiritual 6 extremities, the root of the physical 6. Behold, there is a place with me, as explained regarding yours, Havayah, is the greatness. Likewise, the 4 directions are the great Dalet of Leah or Rachel. And this suffices. Why then did the sages speak of Shema's unification in terms of physical 6 extremities, while according to Kabbalah the main unification is in the upper 6, the 6 midot of Atzilut, which are the true root of the 6 in Beriah and Yetzirah down to the 6 of the physical world? Since all their words are built on the secret and they merely hid their intent in accessible language, here, in the mitzvah of Shema, if the main unification is above, why speak so cryptically? The answer: they intentionally spoke in terms of the physical 6 extremities. For yours, Havayah, is the greatness, refers to the 6 extremities as place, above, below, east, west, north, south, when he is called Alufo Shel Olam, the master of the world, or the place of the world, and blessed is Hamakim, the place. All this is descent and drawing from the spiritual 6, pre-Atzilut, into the 6 of Atzilut, the world called up, and place, e.g., behold, Havayah goes out from his place. Blessed is, from his place, behold, there is a place with me. But when he is called Pele, wondrous, above being the master of the world, that is, when the world is not his place, this is the bittul and unification of the upper 6 in the essence. That ascent and bittul causes a descent and drawing from the essence of the emanator, so that he becomes the master and place of the world within the 6 extremities of A by Ya. Consequently, every day when who renews the work of creation acts, the place, the 6 extremities of the physical, comes into being anew from nothing, out of the first root, the 6 of Atzilut. Hence each day there is a new east that was not yesterday, likewise a new above and below, etc., since they are rooted in the first roots, the 4 supernal directions, the great Dalet, down to our physical 4 directions. When the emanator renews the 6 of Atzilut, by the chain they come to be in Beriah, through hidden stages, down to the 6 of Ossia. So a new east, etc., must come into being daily, from spiritual to physical. But this happens only with a prior unification and bittul of the lower 6, from existence back to nothing, ascending from below to above, yours, Havayah, i.e., the bittul of place. The physical 6 ascends to the spiritual 6 that brings it into being. The 6 of Yetzirah is included in Beriah in Atzilut, and Atzilut in essence. Therefore, the main unification depends on the physical 6. When the lowest ascends and is included in the higher, everything rises with it to the highest rung. But this is true in ascent. Conversely, in drawing from nothing to existence, from above to below, the main dependence is on the upper spiritual 6, since they are the primary root. This is why in Crown Him in the heavens and on the earth, there are 2 opposite readings. 1, as ascent and bittul from below to above, where the physical 6 are the main focus, since kingship, Maluka, the word used, is the nullification of one's will to accept the yoke of the exalted king, see Zohar on mighty in strength. 2. Conversely, crown him in the heavens and on the earth in the sense of descent and drawing, that he be king in heaven and earth and the 4 directions, the master of the world. In truth, even though in descent the main dependence is on the higher, in kingship there are 2 things: A. Exaltation in himself, ascent of the infinite light to boundless height, and B. The expansion of his kingship over a people. The more separated the people, the greater the expansion reaches, down, down, even through the chambers of the other side. Who would not fear you, King of nations? God is king over nations. Your kingship is over all. This is the advantage in Barukh. Yihud Tatre, over Shema's first verse, Yihud Elohe, as will be explained, because the beginning is wedged in the end, and the end in the beginning, depth of height in depth of below. Thus the sages spoke of the physical six both for ascent and for descent, crown him specifically below, in the physical six. And this suffices. 20. We can now explain the essence of Barukh Keved Malkhuto L'Olam Vid, blessed be the name of the glory of his kingship forever, what the general Kavanah is. This is the lower unification, Yihud Tatre, as in just as they unite above as one, so she, the Shehina, is united below, and on that day Havayah will be one and his name one, to make one in one. This is the phrase the tribe said to Yaakov, just as there is but one in your heart, so, in ours, Pesahim 56a. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish taught, Yaakov sought to reveal. They said to him, Hear, O Israel. He responded, Barukh. The sages debated whether to say it aloud. They instituted to whisper it. The reason, Yaakov is the middle bar that passes from the top, Keter, to Malkhut, causing the supernal unification of Atzilut to shine also in Binah. Therefore Yaakov opened with Barukh. Moshe, who was inside, within Atzilut, did not say Barukh, and therefore we whisper it, but in the future it will be said aloud, after the clarifications of the tree of knowledge are complete. And this suffices. First, explain lift up your eyes on high and see, who created these? Isaiah 40 verse 26. It seems obvious to everyone that God created heaven and earth ex nihilo. Why, then, command us to lift our eyes and contemplate who created these? The prophet reproves Israel to see the revelation of the light of the essence of Ein-Sof even in what has already been created as finite and bounded. Precisely there shines the infinite, the act resembles the door. If the divine do is infinite, how does finitude contain the infinite? Hence the verse continues, He brings out by number their host, even though who created these, nevertheless he brings out in number and measure. In that very fact, you see the power of the infinite, who created these. This is the core Kavanah in Barukh. Bara is descent and drawing below, the name of the glory of his kingship. Though Ein-Sof descends without end, still he brings out by number. In short, just as the supernal unification within the Sefirot of Atzilut, Havayah is one, is an ascent and inclusion to limitless heights in his essence, so too the descent in the lower unification, Barukh, is also truly infinite. For the essence of Ein-Sof rests in Malkhut of Atzilut, which hides within Binah, exactly as he rests in the supernal unification of Atzilut. Thus, he and his hayyei, life forces, are one in Atzilut, supernal unification, and he and his gamehi, vessels, limbs, are one in Malkhut of Atzilut within Binah. The main mode of this flow is the letters of Malkhut, hence Malkhut is called the vessel, in general and in detail. From the Malkhut of each Sefirah there is built the structure of the 10 Sefirot of Malkhut in light and vessel. For example, from Malkhut of Hokhmah comes Hokhmah of Malkhut, from Malkhut of Hesed comes Hesed of Malkhut, and so on. He and his gamehi, vessels, are one, just as in supernal unification, for Havayah is Elohim, all one. Havayah is one and his name is one in one, exactly as the tribe said, just as in you there is only one, and just as they unite above, so below. And this suffices. From this, it seems clear, because the power of Ein-Sof rests in Malkhut, this Midah, attribute, can actualize ex nihilo without any limit whatsoever. Indeed we see, down, to the very end of Malkhut in Binah, to Malkhut of Ossia, that there comes into being the 7 heavens and earth, the heavenly hosts, composed of spiritual and physical elements, and the 4 earthly elements. Their root is in the 7 midot of Malkhut. From Hesed of Malkhut of Ossia, the first heaven came to be, from Gevuro of Malkhut, the second, all the way to earth from Malkhut of Ossia. The root of all this is Malkhut of Atzilut, which becomes Keter of Beria. This is the great Dale of Ehad, about which they said, crown him in the heavens and the earth, 7 heavens and earth and the 4 directions. If so, why do we need further Kavanah in Barukh? Didn't the sages say, when I crowned him above and below, there is no more need? And indeed, the halakha does not follow the people of Yericho who bound Shema with Bar Hashem. On the contrary, the main Kavanah now is precisely in the lower unification of Bar Hashem, because it has an advantage over the supernal unification in the first verse, as will be explained. First, a seeming contradiction. There is no limit to the flow that issues from Malkhut in every world down to this world. How many are your works, Havayah? We see spiritual influence becoming physical. Every blade of grass that sprouts is struck and grown by its mazol, spiritual director. There are myriads of species of grasses sprouting anew each day. Surely the spiritual mazalot that influence them are many myriads, each a distinct spiritual power. And only a tenth part of the mazol's power reaches the physical plant. This is the Malkhut within the mazol alone, thus the higher powers number 10 times more. And so there are mazalot for each living thing and for humans, a mazol that makes wise, a mazol that enriches. Just as the relation of physical domimtsa miyahai medaba, mineral vegetative animal human, and the four elements to their spiritual mazalot, so too the mazalot are physical relative to higher angelic beings, each plane receiving from one above it. This ascends through Ossia Yetzirah Beria, souls and angels, up to the source of all worlds, Malkhut of Atzalat as it is in Bia, which includes everything. Great is our Master and abundant in power. He includes all the powers that are produced from him ex nihilo, truly without limit. Yet while all remains in potential and concealed within the Midah of Malkhut, before the flow emerges to revelation, this is called the vessels, the multitudes of divine letters and combinations included within Malkhut. As it says, Bizal knew how to combine the letters by which the heavens and earth were created. There are two levels in letters. 1. Essential letters, the inner vessels, e.g., Malkhut within Hesed, or Malkhut within Gevurah, within Malkhut of Atzalat. 2. Letters that go outward, by the sayings, let there be light, let there be a firmament. These letters are engraved into voice and speech and are enclosed within each creature itself. The power of the Maker within the made, Adonai is in them, the Master of all deeds. Given that the power of Ein-Sof shines in Malkhut, the combinations are truly without limit. From here on, go out and compute. One might think the revealed combinations that actually produce beings should also be without limit. Since the power of the Maker is in the made, and that power comes from Ein-Sof itself, he and his Gamehi, vessels, are one. Why does it say, he brings out by number their host? Number seems to contradict the infinite. Indeed, not only is there number, he himself brings out by number. The answer, he can do all. Just as he can draw forth without limit, he can bring out in number and measure. These are his Gevuro, mighty constrictions. Hence the verse concludes, from the abundance of his might and the strength of his power, not one is missing, because he is abundant in might and strong in power in his very essence. Therefore he can make the flow for each being exactly according to its level, not one lacking, neither too much nor too little, all in precise measure. At the same time, the general light of the flow has no end, even though he brings forth the actual existence and light of the creatures by number. And this suffices. To grasp this further, we can see plainly that because there is the light of Ein-Sof in Malkhut, the divine effluence never stops. We say, in his goodness he renews each day continuously the work of creation, each day everything is renewed ex nihilo, from the topmost rungs to the bottom, across all 6,000 years, spiritual and physical worlds, without any interruption. From the abundance of his might, not one is missing, each receives a new light. Every person, plant, and animal receives new vitality today, so do angels to the highest heights. Though when the flow enters any given recipient, it comes as a precise measure, still, the spring of the flow never ceases, like a spring whose gushing is unending, though the waters gather into bounded vessels. The spring does not stop because its source is the deep, without any inherent limit. So the wellspring of divine effluence from the nothingness, Ein, in Malkhut is unending, since it is drawn from the essence of Ein-Sof who has no measure. Yet when it comes into recipients, it is measured to each world, he brings out by number their host. And this suffices. Or like a very great sage whose wisdom has no bounds, his flow to students renews always, without limit, Yet each student receives only according to his limited vessel, as water from a spring gathers in bounded containers. That is, he brings out by number, although the body of divine flow has no end, to renew each day, everywhere, times without number. Nevertheless, recipients receive in diverse vessels, by measure, and their very existence comes to be ex nihilo by number. Therefore no two angels are identical. One angel does not perform two missions, for each angel has its specific letter combination that brings it into being. Where it says, "Is there number to his troops?" Yes, to his troops there is no number, but to the servants there is 1,000 thousands, 10,000 10,000s. All this is because so it arose in the will of the Emanator, his very essence, that creatures exist by number and limit. He brings them out, he himself brings them into the category of number and limit. Yet the light itself of the flow is without measure, because the essence of Ein-Sof is united with Malkhut, the source of all existence. He and his Gamehi are one. And this suffices. 21. This is the meaning of, lift your eyes on high and see, who created these? The prophet urges, raise your gaze to the heights, to the essence of Ein-Sof, above number and limit. You are exalted forever, and see that even in his descent of light and flow into the many beings, it is the power of the infinite itself. Who created these? Mi and Ile form Elohim. The actual creation by Elohim comes from Mi, Ile. Who created these is phrased as a hidden subject, Mi who stands beyond question. Ile, these, implies great multiplicity. How many are your works, Havayah? Yet they come by number. So, even though who created these is from the power of Ein-Sof, nevertheless, he brings out by number their host. This refers to the second level of letters, those that go out into revelation. But the first level, the essential letters within Malkhut, has no measure or number at all. That is why, from the flow itself, there is no limit, even when it subsequently takes on number. This is also the daily renewal of creation without any bound. Hence he resolves the apparent paradox at the end of the verse. It is not a contradiction. From the abundance of his might and the strength of his power, not one is missing. Because his power is essence of Ein-Sof, without upper bound and without beginning, it follows that his extension downward is likewise without bound, the countless letters within Malkhut. From that very unbounded power, he is capable of bringing forth by number and limit. From the abundance of his might and the strength of his power, not one is missing. Each one's allotted measure of flow is precisely granted. These are his Gevuro, his power to constrict as measured, which is the greater novelty. And not one is missing can also be read simply. The flow never ceases. This is the power of renewal without interruption. All of this is one and the same. And this suffices. For added clarity, consider how letters well up from the intellect in the mind. The welling up is constant, without any pause. For every new way the light of intellect shows itself, immediately a fitting combination of letters is formed. Even though letters are, in themselves, limiting vessels for the primal, formless intellect, for they come in finite combinations and words, nevertheless their welling up is also, in a sense, unbounded, just like the intellect, since they gush forth endlessly, to bound the light of intellect in whatever mode it appears. As is known, vessels' letters have their own root in a special source, just as light has its root. As there is no limit to the modes of light's appearance, so there is no limit to the multiplicity of vessels' letters. The difference is only that the vessel's multiplicity comes to bound, while the light's multiplicity comes to expand. The same holds for mashal and nimshal, parable and subject. The greater the illumination of the nimshal, the more meshalim are needed. He spoke 3,000 meshalim. Thus the parable is the matter and the subject is the form. Indeed, there is sometimes greater power in the source that produces the vessel, mashal, than in the source that radiates the light, nimshal. Hence, as one says in the mashal ha-kadmoni, the primordial parable, the revealed Torah is called the primordial parable. It is in letters and vessels, and in this sense it is higher in source than the light of Torah. It is the primordial Torah that preceded the emanated world. This is especially the oral Torah, called Malkhut, which comes in measures and limits according to the fine distinctions of the sages. Its root is in the primordial wisdom of Torah, of which it says, longer than the earth. This is explained at length elsewhere. So too, with the root of letters in Malkhut within the lower unification of Bara Shem, which come in measure and limit, he brings out by number. This is from the power of the primordial wisdom of essence, which is above the supernal unification in the Sefirot of Atzilut. He and his life forces are one. See who created these, ex nihilo, by the letters with which they were actually created. He brings them out by number, and he calls them all by name. This comes from a yet higher essential power. Great is our Master and abundant in power, even greater than the power of the revealed lights of the Sefirot. Consequently, the lower unification, he and his Gamehi are one in Malkhut, is higher in root than the supernal unification, he and his Hayyot are one. An illustration from the 10 sayings of creation, and God said, "Let there be a firmament." This saying comes in precise measure and limit, for the firmament alone. The letters Yehi Rakia, let there be a firmament, begin welling up from the head, the light of Hokhmah, into speech and voice. The letters of Yehi Rakia, therefore have a source above the source of the light of Hokhmah in the head that then extends into letters of intellect and from intellect to speech. The power and source to delimit in letters is higher than the source and power to reveal and expand light, for the reasons stated. The more bounded the manifestation, the higher its root, e.g., the tablets, the writing was the writing of God. The very engraving of the 10 Commandments is higher than the 10 utterances of the supernal speech, hence engraved equals freedom, etc. So too with the root of the world to come, Olam Habi, of which it says, to bequeath to those who love me substance. Specifically when physical bodies become refined to receive divine life in a material, bounded way, by the ultimate purification of matter such that it can receive the divine form from the supernal mind, this is higher than all manifestations of divine light in the higher Garden of Eden and to prophets, which are but a ray of essence, not essence itself, perception of existence, not of essence. This comes specifically from practical mitzvot and Torah in actual deed. The one depends on the other, as above. And this is, he calls them all by name. This is the primary novelty, that by name he calls them, all of them. Note the 3 phrases in the verse. 1. Who created these, the substance of creation ex nihilo by letters that go out into revelation. 2. He brings out by number their host, creatures come in measured words and combinations. 3. He calls them all by name, an even greater novelty. Because the farther down a thing is bounded, the higher its root in essence. So too here, the fact that each angel is called by its particular name, its most bounded definition, indicates a loftier source. Every spiritual power is called by the name of its function, e.g., the mazal that grows grass is called grass, Zoho-on who makes grass grow, angels called grass, others fire, his ministers a flame of fire, others by names of stone or tree. The physical is relative to the spiritual. Even the mazalot are physical compared to the higher angels over them, the Ophanim and Hayyot. Each rung receives from the rung above it, up through the seraphim of Beria. Therefore angels are given many descriptive names, trees of the forest, grass, even stones, rocks. Generally, angels of Ossia are named by inanimate, of Yetzirah by vegetative, of Beria by animal, lion, ox, and of Atzilut by man. Each world contains all 4 categories. Thus in Yetzirah, Ezekiel's vision, the face of a man to the 4 of them. He calls them all by name. Each angel is called by a specific name according to its mode of influence. Who calls each by its particular name? The one of whom it first said, who created these, and he brings out by number, he calls them all by name. This is the root and source of the entire order of worlds, namely, the essence of Ein-Sof within the Midah of Malkhut of Atzilut, the source of all that arises from his light in Binah, that descends at the very end, to call each by its name. This is the beginning embedded in the end and the end in the beginning. Precisely in the maximal boundedness of the vessels lies the highest essential degree. From the abundance of his might and the strength of his power, not one is missing. Each receives its measured flow, because the 2 are interdependent. From all this, we can also understand the root of the creatures, Malkhut, the letters of the 10 sayings which come in limitation and within each creature. These are higher in root than the first essential light in Hokhmah and Ratzon in Bereshit, as above. Hence the advantage of the lower unification, he and his Gamehi are one, of Bara Shem, which is the calling and drawing of divine light in the multitudes of letters of the name of the glory of his kingship down to the coming to be of Domim, Tzemia, hayyei Medaba of Ossia, over the supernal unification, he and his hayyot are one. Come, see the works of God, who has placed names in the earth. Read not Shamit, desolations, but Shemit, names, particular names of angels, named for their action below. These are the operations of Elohim in the earth, through his agents, the angels, he calls them all by name, as above. In the same way, within Atzilut itself there are aspects called Domim, Tzemia, hayyei, Medaba, the stone, the plant, the animal, the human, all as metaphors for modes of influence from Atzilut to Beria. Hence Malkhut, the general influence from Atzilut to Beria, is sometimes called stone, rock, dust, sometimes plant, like a rose among thorns, sometimes animal, sometimes human. Within Atzilut, Malkhut is inanimate, the middot are vegetative, Hokhmah, Binah are animal, etc., all by reference to outreach and expansion. Since the main expansion and influence is from the middot, Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, when the flow goes from spiritual to physical, Atzilut Biyah, it issues from the middot, like the rose with its three colors, white, red, green, i.e., Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet in the plant. These are the 6 words of Bara Shem Keved Malkuto L'Olam Vid. In Shema's supernal unification there are also the middot, the 6 extremities, above, below, etc., but higher, the source that feeds Malkhut. Hinted by letter exchanges in Ehad. This is why we extend the word Ehad. When I crowned him in heaven and earth and the 4 directions, i.e., I crowned him in the physical 6 within Malkhut, to be influenced from the 6 of Zer Anpin, Havayah has reigned, he has donned majesty, king forever. This can be likened to the difference between the 3 colors in a rose, only plant, and the 3 colors in an apple, still a plant, but holding taste, sweetness or tartness, in its very essence. The taste shows the life within it. Sweetness points to Hesed, it gives life to the soul, bitterness to the sharpness of din, and the middle taste to pleasantness. Thus, within plant and inanimate there is also animal and human in potential, but in the plant, the animal appears as taste, composed of the 3 middot. Likewise with angels, some are trees of the forest, just plant, some carry animal within plant, like the apple's 3 tastes. So in Atzilut, when the middot shine strongly, they are called apple, like an apple among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved. He influences Malkhut, the 6 words of Bara Shem, sometimes in Hesed, sometimes in Gevurah, as with the apples sweet and sour. Malkhut is called rose, the 3 colors in plant, for she influences the separate world. The middot as they pertain to action are called Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet within Netzer, Hod, Yesod, but as Malkhut is the end of action, to influence in actuality, she is Netzer, Hod, Yesod within Netzer, Hod, Yesod. This is the difference between the large Daleh of Ehad and the 6 words of Bara Shem. Yet because the end is wedged in the beginning and the beginning in the end, and because the last deed arose first in thought, see he brings out by number, the lower unification has an advantage over the supernal unification. This is, see who created these in actual deed, which is seeing, higher than hearing, hear, O Israel. And this suffices. Ate I my forest with my honey, Song 5:1 My forest is Pesachei de Zimra and the 2 blessings before Shema, the angels called trees of the forest, then all the trees of the forest sing, my honey is Shema, which has a taste of sweetness, the soul tastes, by its own nature, hear, O Israel, like honey dripping from the forest trees, the middot of Hokhmah, Binah, the animal within plant, as above. And this suffices.